Sammi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad we chit-chatted a bit before because I have so many questions. So I'm excited to talk to Sammi about her new book. And also, she's also launching potentially 2 podcasts. And she also has 2 little girls. So yeah, Sammi is not busy at all.
Yeah, I feel like but then it's all of our life, right? Like everyone thinks they're busy. So it's just, I feel like motherhood teaches you that when you thought you were tired before, you weren't. When you thought you were busy before, you weren't. When you thought you had too much on your plate and you were stressed for it, you really weren't. But it's a good thing, it's a catalyst to your greatest self, just like most other hard things.
Do you find you get a lot more done now that you're a mom because you have things to do? You have the same amount of stuff to do, but in such short time increments.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that that's a decision though, because, and sometimes I would yes, and sometimes I would say absolutely not, really. But I do think that there was a point in my journey where I had to make a decision in my business as well as in motherhood. It was one of those pivotal moments in my life where my daughter was a few months old, everything in our life changed so fast. And then all of a sudden I was pregnant. We'd only been dating for 4 months, me and my husband, and I was pregnant. And that was not a plan. We were ready to travel the world and like have a beautiful life together and, do all the things. And all of a sudden I was pregnant and I was like, well, I guess I'm having a baby. And then I had her and it was like, we're either going to live in our parents' basement for the rest of our lives, or one of us has to like really step up here and make this business work. And so that's what I did. During that time, like my whole identity had to change. So you have a blueprint or a normalcy or a standard for things. Like you think $100 is a lot of money when you're a kid. And then all of a sudden, $100 is nothing. And, and then $1,000 is a lot of money. And then all of a sudden, $1,000 is nothing. And then you think $10,000 is a lot of money. And so I think that's the same thing with what motherhood taught me and like all the things to do and getting things done. I had to decide to be a person who got things done right away. And I do think that one of the biggest lessons for me that everyone can take on is, a lot of the times we have this to-do list in our head and we're constantly just like thinking about it and it feels overwhelming and it feels stressful. But what I started to do is I call it a brain dump. So every morning, like I would just start writing out every single thing that was in my head so that I would get out of my head and onto a paper. And then most of the things that I was procrastinating, thinking, oh my God, I have so much to do. I can't even get started. I'm so overwhelmed. I would just like actually be honest with myself. How long is this actually going to take me to send this message or to pay this bill or whatever? And it's like, they're going to take 5 minutes, right? And so instead of being overwhelmed and just, I have so much to do, I'm so stressed, I just started to be like, hey, I'm just going to do this one thing. And then, okay, done. And then all of a sudden, like my to-do list is done and I can be present and I can have time with my family. And it was like I had to change that in order to be able to grow my business to the place that I needed to grow in order for us to actually have choices and to get out of our parents' basements and to have that time to be present and not be stressed all the time. And now with 2, I've had that same transition where now I'm going through that again, right? Because now it's like, oh my God, 2, okay, so get one to school and then have this little baby and I'm still breastfeeding and blah, 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 blah. And it's learning that again on another level.
I mean, you speak so much about mindset and making a quick decision to be a different person. But for someone who doesn't have that kind of confidence and the kind of mindset to make those decisions, it's not a split decision for them. So, and I'm sure
Right.
you weren't always that person.
Right.
Do you find, and I know this because I worked for the same company, do you find all the growth that you've had in your business personally and like self-development wise made that decision and that type of person a lot
100%.
easier?
100%. And that was a 10-year journey.
Yeah, that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. When I started my business, I was 18. I was a full-time college student. I was working toxic jobs. I was in toxic relationships. I did not know my worth. I did not know who I could be. I did not know what I was capable of. And I didn't have any of the skills that I have today, And so I do think being around an environment of growth and support and positivity and potential and possibility and focusing on the solution instead of the problem, the growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset, That's all stuff that came from being in the environment that my business culture has. That's something that most people don't see from the outside looking in to network marketing. And obviously it depends on the company, but that's something that I was not expecting when I started as that 18-year-old shy, feeling unworthy girl. But that's what changed my life, and that's the biggest asset for me. And so a lot of times people ask questions about, should I do this? And they make it this big decision. And it's like, literally just the growth and the community is worth the $49 it is to start your business,
You
you
know?
know?
And it's up to you what you do with it after that.
Right.
One of the biggest misconceptions of network marketing is that it's a get rich quick scheme. And what pisses me off about that the most, and the reason why I've never been succumbed to that type of mindset about it, is that I always looked at network marketing the same way as I look at a corporate ladder. And I think the
Mhm.
nature of that is because I come from that background. I did a business degree before real estate and I worked in that kind of environment. And people think that you're going to make the types of money at the first level right away. And it's like,
Right.
absolutely not. If you started at a company and a growing company and you come in at a junior level of associate level, you'd have put in so much work to make very little money. We've all
Right.
been there.
Right.
And you look at the VPs of any corporation. Let's take a company like Shopify. Of course, the people at the top make the most money, but the amount of work they've put in to get there, they get to enjoy the fruits of their labor afterward.
Yeah.
But people look at network marketing and want that type of money in the first 6 months, and that is
Exactly.
not happening, and
And that's
they
why
would never
most people
expect
quit.
that in a real career, so why expect
Exactly.
it here?
Exactly. It's weird because even when you explain that to people, they still start and they get excited and that's great. But then there's still that expectation. And it's like the question I always ask people is like, with the goal that you have, the life that you want, the whatever you're trying to create out of your business, have you given it the value of that dream life and that amount of earnings? The answer is always no. Usually people have done literally nothing.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? But it's like we have to have an equal expectation. Now, the biggest difference is between a corporate company where you can climb that ladder and you can still have the, maybe the extra finances that you wouldn't have at working maybe other traditional jobs. The difference is you promote yourself, right? In a corporate company, somebody else is promoting you. Like
Yep.
you're still working hard for that promotion, but at the end of the day, it's not up to you. It's up to them if you're the one who gets that promotion. The difference with this for me was like, it's up to me. Like, if I work harder, if I get over myself, if I stop sabotaging myself, which is really what I did for the first 8 years, if I stop sabotaging myself and I overcome the things that are coming up for me, and instead of like being like, oh, another obstacle, what's wrong with me? I suck. I'm not meant to do this. I'm failing. It's like, oh, what is this meant to teach me? And why is this coming up over and over and over again? Because I'm not learning the lesson. And so when I finally understood that and started learning the lesson and actually welcoming in the obstacles, because it's like, this is my next step to level up, that's when things started to change in my business and in my personal life. Right. And it was like everything changed at once. It's like, oh my God, all these years of like trying to figure it out and trying to struggle and trying to be worthy by like being in my own mind of like, why am I not worthy? It's like I was making it about me. And that was the difference when I started to stop caring about getting all these things and having this title and being this thing and needing the money. And I just was like, I would do this for free. I love this so much. Everyone should use these products. Everyone should understand how this business works. Everyone should know this company. I'm just going to share it from my heart. And I was totally unattached. All of a sudden, I became a VP.
Yep. I'm not surprised at all, and,
Yeah.
like I'll say multiple times, like, I've worked for the same company, and, yeah, like, I've seen it time and time again with people, who started before me, people who started after me. The moment they stopped making it about themselves,
Yep.
things flourished.
Yep.
And what I'm so grateful about from network marketing is the skills that I gained in network marketing make me a really good real estate agent right now, like,
I
really
love that.
good.
I love that.
The handling, the no's, handling the people, it makes you just so resilient, to
Yeah.
be honest.
It does. And it's like what a great skill and character trait to build for yourself. And that's what I always tell people. It's like, even if this is not for you and you don't want to go to the top and you don't want to build a big business, you don't want to make this a part of like your life forever, you're probably going to leave better than you came in. And we did our job, you know?
Even the types of books that I used to read, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's still I read now, but because everyone around me were reading certain books, like, it completely changed the way I looked at life, the way I looked at problems, the way I looked at conflict, because it really, really matters who you surround yourself. So, if anything that it gave me a great support system and a great network of, like,
I love that.
positive people, and
Yeah. Oh, that makes
yeah.
me so happy. I
I've
love
I've
that.
never had a bad experience in it, and I understand when people have had negative experiences,
Yes.
with network marketing, like, their stories, I understand them, I can see how it went down that way, but for me, it was nothing but positive, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of like a weird outlier.
I love it. Well, I mean, same. And most of the people who stick with the business, right? It's the same thing. Even if they don't build it, even if they're just a consultant or they're just a client, like they've had a positive experience too. And honestly, like what I've learned, because I've heard so many people even leaving other companies and trying to come over to my team and saying, oh, they were saying this and they were saying this. They were saying I have to show up at the meetings and I have to. And I'm like, well, I'm not telling you you have to because I'm not your boss. However, I can tell you that if you want to build your business, you're going to have a completely different experience if you show up to the meetings and if you don't. So
Exactly.
if that's why you got mad at your past company or your past leaders because they're like trying to hold you accountable because you told them that you wanted something, they're not doing anything wrong. Like you're just getting triggered and you got to like figure out how to overcome that and stop self-sabotaging because that's really what's happening here. And so it's like, well, I'm not going to tell you anything differently, like, and I'm really honest with people. If you want to be successful, you got to do what most people aren't going to do.
Totally.
And most people don't show up to the meetings. Most people aren't consistent. Most people don't even take the first step. And then they say, oh, this doesn't work, this is a scam. That's what you hear is like, oh, I bought these products and then I didn't make any money. And it's like, but did you do all of the things that you
Mhm.
were recommended to do? Like, did you share it with people? Did you tell people? Like, well, no, you told 3 people. They said no, or they sent you an article that network marketing is a scam. And it's like, okay, but also who are you listening to? Because my whole family told me that. All my friends mocked me. My whole family told me, like, that doesn't work. Those don't work. You got in too late. You need to get a real job. You need to have stability. Like, I heard all of that too. But my difference was I was researching every single day what was possible. I knew that things weren't necessarily probable, but I also understood that the probability comes down to me, right? If I want to be in the top 1%, I have to be the 1% of people that stick it out for 10 years. Or I have to be the 1% of people who do what most people don't do. I have to be the 1% of people who works harder than everybody else. I have to be in it for the long haul. I could see over time what most people did. And I was like, well, I have to, if I want to be the 1%, I have to do what the 99% of people aren't doing. And so it just became very clear to me that it's like, I have to be the one to figure it out. And that's what I did. And it took me 10 years to get to the top of my company. The average time is 4 years. So like, I'm a big loser, you know?
Like, if you wanna compare it that way, then yeah, you're a big failure,
Right?
but you're not choosing to look at it that way.
No, it's like, oh my gosh, where would I be today if I quit? Where would I be today? I mean, I don't know. I don't know who I would be with. I don't know what I would be doing. I don't know,
Where you'd be living?
where I'd be living. Like literally my whole life would be so different. And I'm
What do you
just so
think you would be
grateful.
doing? And let's preface this with Sammy met her husband through this business. Now they're married with 2 kids. They live in a different country. So if you didn't say
Oh
yes to
my
this
God.
opportunity, just paint me where you were. Like, what
Yeah.
college major were you doing? Like, kind of what career were you going to go down?
Yeah. So I was in business school. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I feel like I probably would have been an entrepreneur still. However, the difference is like, I mean, the amount of mentorship I was getting for free is I wouldn't have had that in a traditional business.
Never.
Right? Yeah. So I started a clothing line when I was 14, and we would sell it in my high school during the lunch hour. So that was like my first little venture with a friend of mine and my sister. That was fun. My dad was my investor. Um,
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad, for the $700 to start. so I did that, and then I became a makeup artist in Toronto, actually. I took my course in Toronto. And so I built a great client base in Ottawa, where I'm from, and I was doing mostly, like, female entrepreneurs in Ottawa, book covers, branding shoots, a lot of weddings, a lot of photo shoots, a lot of magazine stuff, a lot of creative stuff. Like, I had fun doing that. I loved being a makeup artist. I did hair on the side, like, styling for weddings and stuff too. So I was in the beauty industry. I feel like I probably would have gone down that path. Now, the thing is, I also studied on the side with my naturopath, and I learned about like what's in our products. I did that before I became a makeup artist when I was
Crazy.
17. Yeah. And so
The world was working for you.
it
It
was
all makes sense.
all happening, and I didn't know that it was leading to my business in the end, right? I never would have expected it was gonna be a network marketing company. That was what I was supposed to fall into. That's what happened. But if it hadn't, still, it was like I was looking for cleaner products to use on my clients as a makeup artist. I was looking for cleaner products to use on myself. And so when I started going to school for entrepreneurship, my business idea was that I was going to open my own holistic wellness center, spa, hair, yoga studio, natural food store. I wanted to open this huge complex in Ottawa. That was like actually my dream. And it was great. And I think it's an awesome idea still, right? Like I'm still totally down to do that. But I was, and I'm not saying this like to brag on myself at all, but I was like ahead of the time. Like that was not ready back
100%.
then.
This is like
Yeah.
2008, 2009,
But the thing
2010.
is, exactly. But the thing is, my professors were so amazing. I went to Algonquin College in Ottawa, and they were so amazing. I had this one teacher named Phil Jones. Shout out to Phil Jones if he's ever out there. He was so awesome. He was so passionate about trends. And so he was always telling us, like, this is what's coming in the next 5 to 10 years. Vegan, gluten-free, health and wellness, like natural, clean products, anti-aging. He would show us ads on the TV for anti-aging products, and he'd be like, "Why is the model 20 years old?" And he'd be like, "Your grandparents and your parents, the baby boomers, they have the most money and they're going to be getting younger. They want to be like hiking in the mountains." And, literally everything that later was exactly what my company was doing in my business, right?
Someone's
But that's
eerie.
so it's crazy. It's actually so crazy. So I was excited. Like I was in school. I was like, yeah, I want to have this wellness center where people can like have all these alternative therapies and use all these natural products on their skincare, their facials, their manis and pedis, and their hairstyling. And so that was kind of my idea, was organic salon spa wellness center. But I also took a course in my program called, my elective was, I think it was called like Going Green. So it was all about businesses going green, businesses having great corporate social responsibility, businesses being good for the environment, and like that whole trend. And it's crazy to me now that that was 12 years ago. And
This is
that
all
is,
we know now.
it's 100% where the world is going. And that's what I talk about in my book. And that's what my company, like, it's so cool. So I probably would have tried to do that. But as I made a business plan through that course, that building, I was trying to make the building 100% zero emissions, green friendly. And again, this is 12 years ago. Like so much has changed since then. And so it was going to be, I think it quoted me at $2 million just for the building.
No.
And, that's like without anything else. And so it was like, how I'm 18, like, how am I going to do this? Now, maybe I could have, right? I don't know. But I also wanted to travel the world. I didn't want to stay in Ottawa. So I was like, if I'm going to put my heart and soul into a company, a brick and mortar business, I know I'm going to be there all day, every day. And it's going to be a decade before I have any flexibility.
Yeah. And that didn't inspire you
And
at all.
that's not what I wanted. And then literally a month into my second semester is when I learned about my company. And it was like, oh my God. Like, it was like,
You almost asked the
how
world
does this
for it and they gave it to you.
exist? Yeah, it was like all the things I learned in my course about what ingredients to get rid of, all the green initiatives, the mission of like empowering people. I was started to get into like mindset. I watched The Secret when I was 17 as well. So like
Mm.
17 was kind of when like things started opening up to me, things started to shift. And then at 18, the week before I turned 19 is when I started my business. And then in 19, after I promoted to the first level, within the first few months, I broke up with my boyfriend at the time. I quit my job. And because of the community and the growth, I started to be like, why am I allowing this? Like,
Mhm.
I'm
Who
worth
am I
more than
associating
this.
myself with? Yeah.
Yeah. Why am I being treated like this? Like, this is like both in my job and my relationship, it was like, I'm better than this. And obviously that was scary. And that kind of goes back to one of your first questions. Like, if somebody's not in that mindset yet, like, how do they just change? Like, it was a terrifying decision. But within a month, I quit my job and I broke up with my boyfriend, and becoming that next version of me, where I actually knew a little bit more, just a little bit more, that I was worth a little bit more than what I thought, you know? And as I continued throughout my journey, like, I just reinvented myself over and over and over again by constantly diving in and learning and growing and aligning myself more and more with like where I wanted to go and who I wanted to be. And I think that's like a question that you can ask yourself with anything. You know, whatever your decision is this bringing me closer to who I want to be? Is this expanding me or is this contracting me?
No, everything you're saying makes so much sense to me. And I was going through a bit of a weird breakup during the same time I was still in the business. And my friends were like, how did you get over this breakup like so quickly? Like, you seem fine. And I'm sure there was a little bit of just shock to it where you're just kind of not dealing with it. But I think my experience, like through the business and the types of people I surrounded myself with, I was just like, bye. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? If you're
Yeah.
if you're gonna leave my life when I feel like I'm figuring things out, see,
It's
you're
part of
not
it
gonna
then.
affect
Yep.
me.
Divine timing. Okay. Right.
Like, you're not meant to be here.
Yeah. I have a whole chapter in my book called Creating Space. And
Mm,
that's really what it's about. It's like, whether that's, you know, people in your life or even just like your actual space, you're cleaning out your closet, cleaning out your, you know, organizing yourself. Like, I do believe that your external environment is a reflection of what's happening inside. And for me, like, whenever my house is crazy disaster and unorganized, I'm like, I cannot get stuff done until this is done. And there's a balance to that because sometimes that's actually just procrastination. When I've been promoting to the top levels in my business, everything looked like a mess and
of
it was
course.
chaotic, but it was fun and it was crazy. And I would like embrace the chaos. And I feel like with motherhood too, you have to embrace the chaos eventually. Like I say in my book, imagine you have a box or like a drawer, and that's where you can fit everything important in your life. And if you want to bring something new in, you have to clear out something that you don't want anymore. If you want to upgrade something, whether that's your relationship or your business or your career or whatever, your self-worth, your self-love, you got to get rid of the old you or the old relationship or the old patterns. You got to create space for what you want. And not that we do have that limited space, but I think it's a really great way to make those conscious decisions of like, what am I consciously choosing to release now so that I can bring in something better?
A great example of that that I experience when talking to my girlfriends is in the dating world, they're always saying like, "Oh, like this is the type of guy I want. This is kind of what the relationship I want." But yet they're dating people and entertaining guys that have nothing to do with anything they actually want. And I keep
Yes,
saying to them like, if you have this guy in the mix, yes, you like the attention. Yes, you he's fine. You have fun with him, but you are taking up space from the person
yes,
that actually should be in your life. So get rid of
yes,
them and be
yes.
okay with being alone for a bit so that someone there's room for when the right person comes along that
Oh my
there's
God,
room for them
yes.
to move in. And my
Girl,
friends think this is like a crazy idea, but I'm like, stop entertaining people that you wouldn't like stop going on dates with someone that you wouldn't be in a relationship with anyways. You're wasting.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Like, can I just like thank you?
It drives me
Yes.
nuts. Like,
No,
my
it's
girlfriend
so
will
true.
go on first dates just for almost, like, the attention and the ego boost, and I'm like, "If you wouldn't date this guy, if you wouldn't bring him home to your family, do not go on a second date with him. Stop wasting
You know
time."
you know what? And I think that it always comes down to a lack of self-love, and that's, like, what I'm so passionate about, and that's what my book is about. Awaken Your Inner Goddess. It's like, oh my god, there's so much I need to say right now.
Go for it.
So we talked a little bit about identity. You are going to become what you believe about yourself. if you're trying to manifest that person, if you don't truly believe that about your identity, I'm somebody who's worthy of a freaking magical, mind-blowing, true love relationship. If you don't believe that, you're not going to make that change, right? And the example I give a lot is like, if you're a smoker, you're going to smoke. If you're a smoker trying to quit, you could be that for 4 years where you're still smoking for 4 years because you're a smoker trying to quit. You stop for a little bit and then you smoke again and stop for a little bit and then you smoke again. Until you identify as a non-smoker, when somebody offers you smoke, no, I don't smoke. It's just your identity, right? And so for me, like my book, Awaken Your Inner Goddess, the goddess is almost like a personification of the best version of you as a woman. It's like, who do I want to be? And it's if you can picture this stunning freaking goddess that is passionate, that is proud of herself, that is strong, that is confident, that doesn't allow the BS in, that doesn't allow, there's boundaries there, but they're loving boundaries. She shows up in love, in light, her cup's overflowing. She takes care of herself first. Like all of these things were things that I had to change. That was my 10-year journey of becoming this version of myself. And when I could think of her, it was like this goddess. And so that's kind of the premise of my book, is being able to actually know strongly who's the identity of who I want to be, right? But it's so true what you're saying. So it's like, if there's something there that's making people entertain something that they don't want, you're telling the universe, you're saying, I want this. And then you're telling the universe, not really though. I don't actually want it. You've got to if you want the universe to provide or God to provide, you've got to show up in what you're asking for. And if you're not doing that, you're like, actually, yes, I do. Actually, no, I don't. Actually, yes, I do. You think about placing your order at a restaurant, okay? And then you go back to the chef every 5 minutes and try to change it over and over again.
That's so confusing.
What is the chef going to do? Eventually they're going to be like, okay, well, what do you want? And that's what we do with our life all the time. And relationships is a big one. And I'll tell you a little bit about, our story, because with Dylan and I was not in a relationship for 7 years. So after I broke up with that boyfriend when I was 19, I did not get into a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship for 7 years until I was with my husband. And for the first 3 years, I tried to date here and there, had, some things for a while. And usually those were more lessons. Why are you with this person that's not giving you what you want? And I'm saying this with so much love to all the ladies out there or the people out there that are dealing with this. You deserve somebody who's like, I want to freaking be with you. You're a catch. You're amazing. I want to grow with you. I want to be with you. But the thing is, you're not going to find that until you love yourself. You have to love yourself fully, and you have to stick to that standard. If you're saying this is what I want, exactly what you said, you have to stick to that. If you're
how do people do that?
How do people do that?
Do you recommend people almost already being what they really want? Almost fake it till you make it?
You don't attract what you want. You attract what you're being.
Okay.
Right? So for me, one thing I did is I would write a list. This is the type of guy I want. No, my list made this is freaking Prince Charming, work grows with me, positive, talk about our emotions. We have the same dreams, all the things, handsome, tall, all the things. Right?
Perfect.
Perfect, right? And it's here's a disclaimer. There's somebody that's perfect for you out there, but nobody is perfect all the time. You have to know that you're going to grow together. You have to know that your relationship's not always going to be perfect. But when it comes down to it, you're in it for the right reasons and you're going to lift each other up. You want to be in a relationship where you guys lift each other up. And even if you're in a relationship right now that isn't doing that, it can change. Maybe it's not the right person. Maybe it is the right person, but you got to go first, right? So part of that for me was I had to go first. I decided I will not even exchange energy with somebody any longer until it's the one. And I will not kiss. I will not hook up. I will not, nothing. I will not even go on a date unless I think that this potentially could be the one. Right. And so for 4 years, I was literally 100% alone. Nothing for 4 years. And that's where that was my journey of self-love. That was how I fell in love with being alone with me. And after I made that decision, I met Dylan within months. We were best friends for 3.5 years, and then we started dating. And
Wow.
as soon as I met him, I knew he was the one, but I was also detached enough. I call it detached because that's going to be my next book. Copyright. But
But I think that's
but
great. If you're not attached to the outcome, then it opens up room for things to flourish beyond what you could have imagined anyway.
exactly, exactly. So it was like, I think it's him because he is beyond what I've seen so far of like what's possible in a partner for me. Like I feel on a soul level that we are meant to be together, but I'm so unattached. It's either him or better. And that's what I always started to say. Like even
Him
over
or
those four
better.
years,
I
it's
like
either
that.
him or better. It's either him or better because I know what I'm worthy of. But when you write that list of somebody incredible, I had to be like, if this person's this incredible, who's a person they're going to want to be with?
Hmm. Mic drop on that one.
Right?
Everyone
Am
listening to this is
I
like, "Oh, shit.
right?
I have to
Am
do something about this?" Okay.
right. Am I being the partner that matches the energy, the vibration, the being that this person is going to be that I'm attracting? And also, like, if you go through your list, growing every day, positive all the time, you know, are you doing that? You attract who you are, not what you want. So it's like, if you want somebody on this vibration, or to get into science here, if you want somebody on this vibration and you're down here, like, why am I so, why do I always attract these guys? You can only attract guys on this level. You've got to get yourself up here. You got to build yourself up. And part of that is just a self-love journey. It's like looking in the mirror. I do all this stuff in my book, looking in the mirror into your eyes and saying, I love you. I accept you. There's nothing that you don't have that you need to be worthy of amazing freaking love. Like it's the deep, hard work where you have to see yourself. You want to be seen by a man, you want to be, or by a partner, you want to be seen, you want to be loved. You've got to love yourself. You've got to see yourself. You want to be honored and heard. You got to honor yourself. You got to hear yourself. And it all starts within us. And then we reflect out. It's like what I said earlier about your external reflecting your internal, like it starts with us. Honestly, that's the hard pill to swallow because that's
No
with
one wants
every
to
single thing in
be,
life.
responsible for their
Right.
happiness. Come on. That's
If
ridiculous.
you open Jack Canfield's book, Success Principles, it's
Yep.
100 success principles. The first success principle is take responsibility for your entire life. You can't be in build mode or growth mode if you're in blaming mode or excuses mode. And that's what most people are doing. It's like, well, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault. And you know what? I had a mentor once who said to me, because I was complaining about, my family members don't believe in me or they don't believe in what I'm doing or, know, whatever. It's because of they don't believe in me. They don't approve of me. They don't
I've heard that before.
right? They're not acknowledging me or I'm not getting like the approval that I want from them. And so it's their fault and not where I want to be, right? That's kind of where I was at. And my mentor said, if you're going to give them credit
Empower.
and power for where you're not, are you going to be able to give them credit and power for when you are where you want to be?
Hell no.
Like if you're going to give them credit for your failure, can you give them credit for your success then? And it's like, no, you have to take 100% responsibility for your whole life. And so I stopped blaming. And, with parents, that I feel like with,
We're all so effed up.
oh my
Like, we
God,
all have our childhood crap.
we all have our childhood crap and we need to work through that. Like we need to work through it. That version of us, that child, we need it to be seen, heard, honored, and then released. Because so many of us like hold on to the traumas that we've had throughout our whole life. And also like, it's easy to go into victim mode and be like, well, this hard thing has happened to me. And this is not to discredit anybody's heart. Like we all have heart. But that's really the thing to realize that the more that we work through our hard and we release it, it becomes a tool, a power. It becomes a superpower truly to connect to other people and to show people. Like that's always been my mission. I know that I've been through hard stuff.
I
And,
bet.
like, a lot of people don't even know about it yet, that it's some of the stuff that
Well,
I've
you
been
don't
through.
lead with that, so that's why people don't know about it. Exactly.
Right. And I don't hide it, I'm open about it, but it's like I wanna focus on when I want. What we focus on grows, right? So, I do my internal work and I go deep. I cry my head off. I feel the feelings. I do that hard stuff because I know that our traumas, our difficulties, they stay in our body if we don't work through them. And so a lot of times when we
They
have a
show up
trigger
as
come
joint
up,
pain, they show up as acne.
right? When we have the triggers come up, we just think, "Oh, I don't wanna feel that again. I don't wanna deal with that." Like, and we push it down, we push it down, we push it down, we push it down. But it's like, guys, like, oh my gosh, if you could just go to it and just honor it and just say, "I love you." Like, a Ho'oponopono is a great tool that I use a lot. You say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you." And you just bawl your freaking head off. You just
Mhm.
let it out. You release. You have to allow that to come out of your body in some way. You move your body, whatever it is. Sometimes, like, after my dad passed away this year, that was one of the hardest
Sorry,
things
by
I've
the
ever
way.
been through. Every night I would wake up with anxiety. And literally, like, what I had to do in the middle of the night is I had to get up and go sit in the shower and just cry and just let the shower water feel like it was cleansing me of my pain, of my sorrow, of my grief. And, like, I literally was up in the night for an hour, 2 hours every single night for months. And I would go have my shower, and a lot of the times my husband would get up with me, "Are you okay?" He would just come sit in the shower with me, and I would just cry, I would just talk about what I needed to talk about, and I would feel like, "Okay, I'm being cleansed, I'm working through my traumas," right? I do think that that is so important. It's so, so, so important. But on the other side of it, you can have light, you can feel good again, you can feel happy, you can live life to the fullest, you can become your best self, you can grow, you can overcome, and you can use those difficult things as literally like superpowers to have that human connection. For me, it's like I know that anything that happens to me, I'm gonna get over it. I'm gonna overcome it. I'm gonna go through the pain. I'm gonna go right through it, and it's gonna make me stronger. It's gonna make me stronger. And yeah, so it's just life. I feel
Well,
like our souls came here to grow. We came here to expand and grow and to know what we're capable of and to remember who we truly are. That's part of the human experience. And if we stop labeling things as bad and good and we just, okay, this has happened. I'm going to feel what I need to feel. I'm going to allow my body and my emotions to move and to be there, and I'm going to honor them. And then I'm gonna do that as long as I have to, but then after that, I'm gonna release them. I'm gonna move forward, you know? And, like, sometimes things come up still, and
well,
that's
a lot
okay.
of people love to stay in that hurt and stay in that victim mindset
Yes.
because of sometimes a lot of the attention they get from it instead of going through the pain and moving
Yes.
on.
Well, I have another section in my book called,
I can't wait to read it, by the way.
thank you. It's called Shadow Archetypes, and so I'll just, like, read you some of them. There's the victim, so that's, like, a big one that people are stuck in, right? And it's because we're getting a human need, and usually that's, like, significance or love and connection or certainty, and I talk about all that in my book too. I learned that from Tony Robbins, and so that's really what it comes down to, but it's like, there's nothing wrong with you if you're doing that. It's just that you're not aware, you're not conscious of what
The
you're doing and
awareness.
that it's holding you back.
Mhm.
And so it's really powerful to just take what you're hearing here and dive in deep with yourself and learn the things that you need to learn and overcome the things that you need to overcome. And, for your friends and my friends and many people around the world who are doing that with the guys or with, relationships as such a great example. It's like you have to step into your power and you have to become the greatest version of you and you have to fill in any of those cracks or holes that you're trying to get somebody else or something else to fill you up with, right? That's what it is. It's like, "Oh, I want to meet the guy or the person who fills me, who like makes me whole." And it's like, that's
Mm.
the problem. You've got to be whole and then they will come along and they're whole too. They're doing the work too, and you can shine together in your wholeness. You can expand each other even more. But anytime you think that, a title, a promotion, an amount of money, a car, a home, a person, an experience, anything you think something outside of you is going to make you whole or worthy or happy, you're missing the point.
Mhm.
And
Have
and
someone
so
else coming to you.
that's the work that has to be done in order to have that. And you don't want to even do it for that reason, right? You want to do it because that's what you're here to do.
Mhm.
And then those things come as a byproduct when you don't even need them anymore.
But I mean, Sammy, you weren't always like this. Like you've said in your Instagram post before that you used to prioritize everyone else's approval before your own
Yes.
dreams and mission.
Yep.
I would say a majority of people are resonating with that right now.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
why? Like, why did they have so much power over you? Like people's approval.
I mean, I think and it's like that's why I can talk about this now. It's because 'cause I've been there. I've been there for so long, and I've done that, like, deep hard work that a lot of people avoid.
Give me an example though, like of when you were looking for other people's approval. So
Well,
people
so
can like think about it in their own experience.
yeah, so for me, like, I had a lot of stuff with my dad, and I'm glad that I did heal that before he transitioned into his soul. But there was a moment when I remember really, really strongly where he said, "Why do you do everything I hate?"
Whoa.
And so
That'll live with
that
you.
was that was a fleeting moment for him because I was like, "I wanna be a motivational speaker, I'm gonna be a coach, and I'm doing network marketing." And he's like, "Oh, why do you have
But
to do
he
everything I hate?"
despised all of that for some reason.
Right.
He had his own shit to deal with.
He has his own stuff, right?
Mhm.
And that was like a punch in the stomach for me because what I heard was, "If I do these things, my dad will love me and approve of me less." And so for about
And why
3
would you go
years
do that? Why would you go down that path,
right.
right? Like, what's it gonna get me?
So for 3 years, I just equated more success with less love for my dad,
And you felt like you always had to be picking one or the other.
right? And so what did I do? I held myself back. I didn't become more successful. I stayed in the exact same place for those years. And I didn't do the other things I was telling him that I was gonna do because I just was like, I don't want my dad to hate me because of what I'm doing, right? And so there was that. And I remember actually it was 3 years later and I was in Los Angeles. I was going there to during the winters, I was going to California to try to live my dreams while
Mhm.
putting it all on my credit card. But I called him from a mountaintop watching the sunset and I was like, I need to sort this out. And I told him, I just said, Dad, I'm holding myself back in my business and in my life because of some things that you've said over the years. And I just want to talk about them with you. I'm not blaming you. I want to clear them because I know what I can do and I know I'm going to be so proud of myself and I know you're going to be proud of me, but I need to work through this. And so he's like, "Well, what did I say?" And I'm bawling.
Yeah,
I'm
of
really
course.
bawling.
And people who say those fleeting comments, they're just like, I have no idea what you're talking about because that
Right.
is not deep down how they feel.
Right, exactly. And so I told him, this we had this conversation and one time he said, "Why do you do everything I hate?" And he's like, "I said that?" Right? And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Wow, I'm sorry. I definitely didn't," because then I told him how I took it and that I'm equating my success and what I'm doing with him not loving me and not approving of me. And of
And
course,
he's
my
shocked.
dad is like, he's in shock and he's like, "Sam, like, of course I love you. Of course like, no, I don't really understand network marketing, but who cares? Like, if you love it, do it."
And you're
Right.
like, who cares? I
And I'm like,
care.
"Oh my God, I've held myself back for all these years because of this one thing that he said." And of course, he didn't even mean it. Right.
It was a
It's
flippant
and also,
remark.
like, him thinking out loud. Him just thinking out loud and in his own limited mindset that he wasn't growing, he wasn't doing the work I was doing, he didn't know anything about network marketing, right? And then a few years later, I finally did promote to VP and I had my car party. And, oh my gosh, like, there was part of me that was like, "I'm gonna prove him wrong, I'm gonna prove all these people wrong." But eventually
That's
that all
negative
went
energy
away.
there too.
Exactly. Eventually, that all went away because it was just like, I'm doing this to serve others. I don't care. It's even I get to the top and he still doesn't get it and he still doesn't approve it. It's okay. Right. Like, I love him. I can see him as a child and what he's been through and maybe where he didn't get love from his parents because he had 8 siblings. And, I don't know. I don't know. He wasn't really an open person in that way. But I can just put myself in his shoes and try to understand why he's coming from where he's coming from, right? And I called him up on stage, him and my mom, when I was doing my car party, and I just said, "I wanna thank you. I wanna thank you for your support. I wanna thank you for your skepticism. I wanna thank you for everything that you've ever done for me," because and I didn't say this out loud, but, like, whether it was a challenge that they gave me or an actual support, positive, quote, unquote, "support," that's what grew me,
It fueled you.
right? And so it's all a gift. It was all a gift. And it was such a beautiful moment, and he was the whole time, like, even I had a video that played of my team of, like, how this has changed their life and how it's, like, my yes and me never quitting went to all these people who have these life changes, and it was all these montage of all these people on my team sharing, how our business has changed their life and how that's been an impact because of my decision and me sticking it out when all these other people were telling me to quit, and my dad was just blubbering, crying. And for me, like, I just stood there and I was just watching him and I was just bawling and it was like, that was all I needed. I mean, and even if that didn't happen, like, he didn't even say anything. He didn't say, "I'm so proud of you." He didn't say he
The
just
crying said it
but
all.
that was it. That was all I needed, right? Even as you look back on my journey and you see, like, who I was, and most people don't see who I was. Even the people that I work with every single day, they don't know who I used to be. So even for
No.
them, I have to try to paint the picture of, like, I was not this
Because they
person.
look at you completely different. They
Right,
they can't imagine that you were ever in their shoes.
right. And
Ever.
and and then people compare, right? And it's like, "Well, you're this and you're that, and you can speak."
But a lot of people are comparing their today with your 10 year ago or
Exactly.
with your today
With
instead of
my
yours
today.
10 years ago. Exactly.
Exactly. So I do try to bring up these things. Like, I didn't have any boundaries. I was always trying to save people. I was always trying to drag people along, like, when they weren't ready or just, like, I don't know. I think that eventually I became kind of like that plug-in. I was always very positive because I was working so hard myself. I stopped going out with friends. I stopped going to the bar. I stopped partying. I stopped drinking. And I was at home every single weekend listening to personal development, listening to conferences, listening to YouTube videos, reading books. Like, that's what I did to grow myself. And eventually I became this positive version of me where I had the belief, I knew what was possible. And so I started to kind of be this plug in for people. It's like, oh, well, I feel better when I'm around you. And that's great. And, like, I want people
But
to
you
be
need to do
around me,
that for
right?
yourself.
But they need to do that for themselves, and if it's at my expense of being drained, and then me doing all the work to plug in for all these
Not
people and
worth
fill
it.
up all these people, that's not gonna work.
Mhm.
And so that was another hard lesson that I had to have was, you know, kind of being okay with leaving people behind if they weren't doing their own work. And actually, when I finally did that, this is the irony of it all, so if anyone needs to hear this, when I finally did leave everyone behind, whether they were friends, family, and not that I didn't have any relationship with them at all, but just I have to move forward regardless of what you do. And I love you and I'm loving you where you're at, but I'm going. And I can't be your gas station anymore. And the thing is, that is what made the shift for them, for so many of them. I actually realized I
You
was
weren't allowing them to leech on you anymore.
yeah, I was enabling them. I thought I was helping them by doing this. I was enabling them
Enabling.
the whole time to not do their own work and to not learn their own lessons. And so when I just started walking forward being like, I love you all, but I need to go. I'm done playing small. I'm done holding myself back. I'm done with the self-sabotage. That's when they were able to actually be like, she's going and I need to go with her. And now I'm going to go do the work for a lot of people in my life. And so it's
And you probably felt
a lot of them.
immediately your business changed as well. You thought it was gonna fall apart because 'cause you're like, I can't help you
Yeah.
anymore," and then it blew up.
And then I blew up, and that's when I finally promoted to VP. So gosh, I mean,
It's funny how that works.
it's crazy. It's crazy. And I hope that that helps somebody because it's so true. It's like we just have all these I think that society, especially for women, I think that there's definitely an obligation mindset of, like, you're obligated. You're obligated to go to that social event or
Don't get me
that
started.
right? You're obligated to go to this event, this party, this whatever. And eventually it was like, I can't do all these things when I'm
Mm-mm.
just I'm just being the gas station. I'm drained, I'm exhausted, and I'm not filling myself up. And then you kind of have FOMO, right? You're like seeing everyone doing the thing.
You lose either way. It's
Right. And you're like, oh my God. Like, and so you have to kind of ignore that and you just got to focus on you and grow you, self love, growth, all that. That's what I did. Eventually, it's like, you got to say no. You got to say no. And
powerful
eventually
word.
that feels better. It's like, I'd love to be there, but I have another priority I have to make. And even if that's taking care of you that day, that's okay. That's enough. You're enough. You're worthy of that. Again, if you're going back to the identity of who you want to be, right? I always, even when I met my husband, my mother-in-law was somebody that I looked up to. She's very successful in my business and everything. And so I saw her getting invited to a million things. And, she told me like she would just politely decline all the time.
Good for her.
And I was like, how do you do that? Like I was like, what do you mean you just say no? Like, and I would be so stressed all the time. Oh, I have to go to this wedding and I have to go to this and I don't have the money to do it. And I'd be like literally sacrificing my like not able to pay rent because I feel like I
Trying
have to
to keep up
go.
with appearances
Yes.
and
And
and and please everyone else. I've been there.
yeah, exactly. And so she just said, oh my God, Sam, if I went to everything I got invited to, like I wouldn't have a life.
No.
And
You'd
so
be living a life to please everyone else.
exactly. So it's like, if I want to be a successful person that's invited to more things, I have to get okay with saying no. And it's nothing against anybody else. It's just, we have to pick and choose the things that we prioritize. And then motherhood took that to a whole nother
Mhm.
level because it was like, what do I want my kids to be surrounded by? And I had to let go of really close friends, not because they were bad people, not because I didn't love them or care about them, but just because they were involved in stuff that I didn't want that energetically to be around my daughter,
I get it.
you
I'd
know?
be making the same decisions.
Yeah. And it's like, I love you, but this is not just about me anymore.
I had to make
Maybe,
decisions for a full family.
right. It's like I have a unit now and I have this brand new beautiful soul that's coming to this body and everything that they're around for the first 6 years of their life
It's
is
gonna
what
make a big difference.
that's literally where their blueprint comes from. So it's like, I had to get so intentional with who I was allowing and what I was allowing. And even people that I was so close with and cared about and still have beautiful relationships with, I had to start setting those boundaries there too. Because I was like, I'm not repeating this with my daughter. I'm not allowing this energy with my daughter. And so motherhood was another vessel of big changes and transformation.
So many changes. Sammy, I have 1 or 2 last questions for you before I let you go.
Okay.
And my first question is more around your book. We've kind of touched on it a few times throughout this conversation, but quickly, what inspired you to write the book?
Well, I mean, it's literally all the things that we've been talking about.
Mhm.
This has been a great like overview, ironically, because it's all the struggles, it's all the things that, most people aren't even aware of there being a potential for themselves. So I always knew I wanted to write a book, but I also didn't want to start, whether that was through being a coach or which I'm not, but I just coach people in my business, but or through a book until I had like not mastered it because I truly don't think I'm a master at anything. I'm always
Right.
learning and growing, but till I had really done the work. It's like you can read all the books, but if you haven't like really done it, then I just feel like it's not fair. I mean, yes, you can teach, you can add value, but like you got to go do the work first? So that was me authentically being in my own integrity. It's truly like a journey of the last 10 to 12 years. A lot of the stories that we talked about are in there and kind of going more in depth into them. And I also had this realization. So last year was the beginning of January and I thought, I'm a VP, I'm about to promote to the top of the company. I feel like I've become a completely different person. I've really like done a lot of the work and I'm also almost at the top 1%, and I did get to the top 1% as I was writing my book. And so it's like I now can share with 99% of people what I've learned on that journey. At the very beginning of the year, I looked in the mirror and I said, "Please allow me to flow a book through me this year. Like I want to create something that can impact people." And I just set that intention, totally forgot about it. And then with a few nights later, I was having all these stories of my past come up, all these realizations of what my journey has been. And the best way that I could put it was awakening my inner goddess. And there was so many aspects. Like I was just
Like
getting
the
flooded.
whole brand and everything was coming together immediately.
Everything. Yeah. And it was like I couldn't sleep. Like it was I was writing notes. I was just like, "Oh my god, it's coming," you know? And that night I was researching because I was like, "Goddess, like how can I create a brand around goddess?" And I looked up the word goddess and I was looking in goddess in different languages and I found dia is goddess in Latin.
Beautiful.
It might be pronounced dea, but I call it dia because then I was like, dia, 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 idea, idea. Like changing the ideas for women of who we are and what we're capable of. So then I was kind
Okay.
of like playing on that. And
And
then
it
it
was
was like
all just coming together.
literally just like, and then
Like
it
the
was like,
best things usually do.
exactly. Idea. I, the goddess, I, comma, Dia. Claim her as I. Become your identity. Make the goddess your identity. And then it was like, what? And so it was just crazy. And so right after that, literally every morning, I was up at 4:30 or 5, just
Just ready to go.
just writing. All the stories were just flowing through me. It was crazy. So I just wrote it out and I will tell you it was messy. It was
Of course.
just that it was messy. And I had my amazing friend Adrienne edit it for me. She's an amazing writer. So she like helped me to like blow it a little bit nicer. And it came out 9 months later, which it's all about like birthing and like the divine feminine and your goddess. And so it was crazy that it was literally like 9 months. It was 9 months and it was birth. So I call the beginning, the introduction is called conception. And then literally
Cool.
it was birth 9 months later. And I got pregnant partway through writing and then had my next baby a few months after we launched it. So I'm really just starting to get the word out there. Like I
Yeah.
haven't done a
Still
whole
new.
lot. It's so new, and after putting it out there and then having a baby and all of that stuff, and then my dad passed away, and so it's just like it's been a crazy year so far.
Crazy,
Um,
crazy year.
and it's almost over, but I know that there's
Just the
so much
beginning.
in it. Yes. I know that there's so much in it that can serve people and especially women, you know, and I know what women are going through because I've been through it and I know what's on the other side if they do this work. And so that's really what the book is to me. It's just my gift to the world. I want it to benefit millions of people in some positive way. I don't care if I make money from it. I have that taken care of because of my business. I'm so, grateful for that. And so it's like, it's my soul work. I call it my soul work.
And I feel it like loud and clear
Thank you.
in the way you present yourself, in your voice, everything. And I'm super excited to read it.
Thank you.
Um, Sammy, we could keep going all afternoon.
I
Honestly,
know.
I had so many questions for you and I didn't ask a single damn one.
Well, we'll have to get on again. We'll have to do,
Come back for a part 2, and I'm sure
yeah,
by
I would love
then
to.
you'll have another book out
Oh my
that we'll
gosh.
wanna talk about. Before I let you go, tell the audience where they can find you because 'cause I'm sure they'll wanna connect.
Cool. So I have a website. It's awakendia.com. And that's where you can find my book. And you can follow me on Instagram. For my book is Awakening Dia. And my personal is Sammi Dreiling. Sammi with an I, Sammi. Dreiling is Dreiling. So yeah, I can't wait to connect with you guys and hear your stories. And thank you so much, Janelle, for having me. It was so nice to talk to you. I love your vibe. I love your conversations. I love the beautiful ways that you are putting value and love out to the world and really like showing people that even though they've been through hard things, it's like it's okay. You're not alone. You're never alone. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel and if other people can get through it, so can you. So,
I love hearing my
love chatting
brand
with
and
you.
mission out of your mouth. I love when people, like, explain it themselves. I'm like, "You got it."
I love that. So
Um,
powerful.
Sammy, come back anytime, truly.
Thank you.
Stay on for a few minutes so I can chit chat with you first, but
Okay.
thank you so much for your time. I'm excited for everyone to hear this.
Thank you.